Hi, I'm Tessa Williams. Welcome to Life the Battlefield. As you know or may not know, I was the former Australian Queen of BDSM. Now I like to expose the industry as much as I can. And with me today, it's my pleasure to have Victoria Sinis. She was our OnlyFans recruiter. And anything else you want to add to that?
I think that kind of summarizes it pretty well. Hey, digital pimp, whatever flavor you want to make it.
Digital pimp, I like that. I was on OnlyFans, but I was not making the big money. I was a dominatrix. I needed to do things in person. I had to hurt them in person.
Yeah. Well, honestly, if you just want to dive straight in, but also thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. It's such an interesting point that you immediately bring up that you weren't making the big money. Because I think that that's such a misconception, right?
It is.
People think that, I'll just jump onto OnlyFans and I'll make a bunch of money and I don't have to do much. Where, as you and I both know, but for people listening, it's literally $180 a month is the average wage of an OnlyFans creator.
Yes.
And so it's such an illusion, isn't it?
It is. Every girl thinks she's going to jump on there and become the next Anna Paul. And they're sadly mistaken.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting much from OnlyFans because it reminded me of the strip club, having to socialise with these guys and having to kind of hustle money out of them. I was used to working in BDSM, working in a dungeon and having already the services laid out.
Yeah.
So I hated talking to them and listening to their garbage, listening to the stuff that they had to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's why it's like blown up so much because it's all about the relationship, right? Because the biggest allure of OnlyFans is the fact that we can sit here and that girl that you follow on Instagram, I can have a conversation with her. I can build a relationship to some capacity. And an element of working for an OnlyFans agency, just, for people that maybe aren't aware, is account management. So you're pretending to be the girl on her behalf to speak to these subscribers, right?
Yeah.
And so we would train these things called chatters, which are people predominantly from like third world countries, in this thing called the girlfriend experience. And it's like, statistically speaking, I think that it's like, I saw a stat of like 89.9%, something crazy like that, of subscribers on OnlyFans are married. It's like, wait a minute. So like if you kind of pull on that a little bit, right? And I think a lot of men that consume sex in some capacity, if it's escorts, if it's, what's the word I'm looking for, strippers and that, a lot of them are married. And it's like, what is going on here that these married men, but just men in general, are searching for such a connection through these avenues? And as you said, you don't want to listen to them, but they probably want to come and just have someone hear them speak. And that was definitely something that I saw at the agency, is that these are just really broken, a lot of them lonely men. Of course, there's monsters in the world, right? But the majority of them are just people that are yearning for a connection. And unfortunately, the sex industry is facilitating this false promise of, a connection, fulfillment, and like all those crazy things, hey?
Yeah, what could be better than that? Having your fantasy girl as the one that listens to all your problems, your desires, everything. Pretend she cares. That's kind of where you get the money in. That's how we kind of played that role back in the day. Yeah,
that's literally it, isn't it? Hey, that if people feel like they have a connection to you and then, oh my gosh, already I'm like thinking about like how this like destroys society, right?
Yes.
Because if you have all these men that are kind of getting this false sense of a need met through, we'll stick to the lane of OnlyFans, right? Of, there's this emotional connection to this girl that I'm attracted to. And then, as you know, there's custom requests on OnlyFans. So I can communicate with the girl, I can get my emotional needs met, but then I get pay-per-views, but then I can do custom requests and she'll do anything I want because I pay her for it. So why would I go searching for someone? And even if I do go searching for a partner, there's such an unrealistic expectation on what the partner should be, right? Because of these avenues that we're facilitating these things through.
Yeah, it's a fantasy.
Yeah, totally.
That's how a lot of young boys actually are learning about sex and relationships through porn, which I got to experience firsthand when I was younger with my first sexual encounter. He learned everything from a porn video and he assumed that he was entitled to girls. He was entitled to sex.
Yeah.
And women were just someone until if one says no, then another one will be available. And I think he found out the hard way that it wasn't really the case.
It's Tessa, it's so interesting. This entire week, it has been the most prominent conversation that I have been having of, and I don't know if you found this, like in this, I don't know, like realm of activism that we're in, there's still such a disparity and like almost like I wouldn't say hate, but an us versus them with men, right? And I'm just learning as we're going along that like if we continue this us versus them, we're attacking each other and we're not attacking the problem. Yes. And I feel this week it has been the prominent conversation that I have been having in personal life, in professional, in pocket, like all the lanes, right? On how devastating this industry is for a male lens. Because the average age of pornography exposure now in Australia is what, like 8-9 years old. And so then our young boys, again, targeted from a porn industry that is intending to literally destroy people's lives. And so these young boys are having this warped lens from such a young age on what they believe reality is. And then it's hurting women in turn. And then it's just like this really yucky cycle, right?
Yeah, they take real girls and practice those fantasies on. Real girls with real feelings, they practice those perverted fantasies on.
Yeah. And it's like a big conversation I've been having. I'm so curious to what your lens is like, what's the solution? And I've been speaking with a lot of people about, I guess, like toxic masculinity because it kind of falls under that category. But there's been like a real heart and a real empathy, and it doesn't negate the behavior, nor does it excuse it. And men need to be held accountable, and they need accountability, I think, to a higher standard than what women do. But I've been having these cultural conversations of like, well, what are the role models that men have? Because men, I think with like this wave of feminism that's come about, the positive of it is that a woman can fit into any archetype now, right? Like, if you want to be like a boss babe, you can be a boss babe. If you want to be a trad wife, you can be a trad wife, and everything in between those two extremes. But men still kind of fall into these categories of, well, you're either like an athlete, you're a gym bro, you're like a tech guy, you're like a Batman player. Like, you have to be a very small amount of options in this world to be seen as like valuable or like a high societal man. Men's role models are either Andrew Tate's or like hyper feminine men, and neither of those are good. And so a big conversation, and it would be so interesting to hear your perspective, is like, what do we do for young boys? Because how can we champion them when they're being exposed at 8-9 years old? Their lens is getting so warped on the reality to be like, hey, mate, you know you don't have to go down that path. You know you don't have to do that. Like, it's been a huge conversation I've been having with men of like, how do we bring better role models around for our young boys to aspire to be like them, you know, where...
Exactly. What I have been doing with my platform is I show them where their future lies, where it's going to be. They will be in that BDSM club getting the most disgusting acts done on them. They'll be asking for it because what do you have after porn? After porn has desensitized you, because I saw a lot of boys like that.
Yeah.
Sex was boring. Their first sexual experience was boring with the sex worker. And they just didn't like it. They wanted to go straight to the hard stuff that I was doing. And they knew what they wanted. They pointed to the equipment that they wanted because they saw it on a porn video. They had been practicing on objects at home, inserting it inside themselves.
Doesn't that break your heart?
Oh, yeah. It was the beginning of the end for me when I was working. And then I realised I was part of the problem. But there's other DOMs out there that do not have that empathy, that'll only see dollar signs, that think they're doing good in the world, that will take them even further. And there's no limit to what you want. And what's going to happen after that?
Yeah.
When BDSM's not enough? What's your next step?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have I guess, honestly, one of like my favourite stories to tell is literally this. So I think you know Exodus Cry. Do you know Exodus Cry, the non-for-profit in the States?
No. Okay,
they're fantastic, and they do a lot of documentaries. They're really into anti-human sex trafficking, anti-sex trafficking, all the things, right? And they released a documentary called Buying Her. And Buying Her is all about the lens of the males who purchase sex. And one of them, Gene, actually last year when I did my first tour in the States, I got to speak with Gene, and we did a couple of events together. And so his story is literally this. And unfortunately, from like a super, super young age, Gene was actually just molested and raped. He goes, I can't even count. I felt like I had a sign on my head that said rape me. Like, it was horrific, his story, right? But then he got introduced at about 10 years old to pornography from an uncle. And so he's like, it started to help to numb the pain of all these years from such a little boy having all these horrific things happen to me. But then it got really extreme, right? And then he says that when he was about 18, 19, he's like, I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take the pervertedness. I couldn't take all the pain and all the things. And he goes, so I thought that the solution to the problem would be, well, maybe if I become a pastor and get married, it'll make all my problems go away. And for about 6 years, he says that he buried it. But of course, all of that is going to come up eventually at some point in time, right? Now he's married, he's got daughters and all the things, and all these feelings brew up. And this will make a lot of sense to what you're saying. And now he has the capacity, because he's older, to not only view the hardcore porn, but then now he can start purchasing sex. And then it gets more extreme and it gets more violent. And he ends up getting arrested for attempted rape of a woman because he had all these fantasies that he wanted to fulfill because nothing was feeding him anymore. And so now this guy is literally married, kids, all the things on paper, whatever, and he gets arrested for trying to rape a woman because of all these sick fantasies that he had. And he talks about this so openly of like, there needs to be such a deep, he gets arrested, he gets put in prison, he ends up, from a faith lens for people, he does end up confessing to a trusted mentor, and he brings him along this journey of that heart restoration. And so that's what he does with a lot of men now, because again, broken people break people, right?
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful story of redemption, but it's this, where are you going to end up? Because unfortunately, a lot of men end up like Gene, and they end up in these really horrible situations. And I have another organization that I partner with called Demand Disruption. And in the States, purchasing of sex is illegal, right? And so they intercede sex buyers at the point of purchase. And so when these men are arrested, Demand Disruption come in, and that's what they're trying to offer, this heart posture of, mate, what's going on? How did you end up here? And Joe talks about this. He goes, look, some men are monsters, but a lot of them are crying and they're in prison and they're going, I don't know how I got here. I don't know what happened. I don't know how I went from here to here. And it's this escalation, right? And I think it's a really valid point that you make, that there's no use in sitting here, and for any man, I guess, listening to this, intrinsically, any guy that we talk to, like when we talk about porn, they all say it. It's trash. They all know it. Even if they're currently consuming porn, they know it's trash and it's not good for them. And so if anyone is listening to this and they are consuming it or whatever, and it's like, hey, that's where there's a really huge likelihood that that's where you're going to end up. If you don't get this under control, if you don't stop this, we know all the science behind porn. We know that dopamine cycle that you're talking about. We know all of this. And so it's like, guys, no little boy deserves to grow up and be in a prison cell because he had such a severe addiction to pornography that he wanted to act it out. Like, that's twisted, right? Yeah. And I think it's such an excellent point that you make, that I think for men, we really need to champion them, to be able to call out that greatness in them, to be able to say, hey, guys, come on, you can do better than this. There's more for you than this.
And you don't have to put down others to make yourself feel better, because I feel a lot of that's happening now, that a lot of them are slut-shaming certain demographic of women. And I've seen the encouragement from their mothers also.
Oh, interesting.
I've had arguments with women online saying, your son will be the next Brock Turner because you're teaching him to put down a certain demographic of women, calling them trash, calling them sluts, all because she does something that your morals don't agree with, and only to value this certain women. So in his head, he can go out and treat them in a certain way, and you're going to go back and say, oh, it's my darling boy. Oh, no, he'd never do anything wrong. He's got a bright future. You've got to let them say, okay, I don't agree with that. I'm going to ignore that. Doesn't align with my morals. I'm not going to sit there and call them sluts and bitches and have my mum say, oh, well, certain people, because they act that way, they be treated that way. So I think it comes a lot to the parents also telling them, treat people with respect.
Oh my gosh, you're opening up like a whole nother can of worms here, right? But that's the crazy thing about this conversation. I think that people think that it's very like linear. It is so complex because we're talking about multi-generations. We're talking about deep systemic lenses of things. We're talking about children being exposed. We're talking about prejudices, about your view of value of people and relationships and all these things is so intertwined to this conversation. But it's so true of, again, the biggest lens, and I think a really huge thing that I'm learning on this journey, right, is this pitting against each other. And it breaks my heart, right, because I was having this conversation yesterday with another gentleman, and he was like talking about women who I guess come from very promiscuous backgrounds and then maybe just say they come into faith, and how is a man supposed to handle her past. And, you know, Brittany Delamore is an excellent example, the book that her and her husband wrote. And
A Call to Purity.
Yeah, and about all of these things. And of course we can go about a faith lens of this, right? Of, well, if you really believe in Jesus, if you really understand what he did on the cross, if you fully understand what it means that he wiped the slate clean, well, then you have no place to judge. But in another way to be able to understand this for maybe people that aren't of faith is we've all made mistakes. We've all done stupid things, right? And let's not even put it through like a sex lens, like just in general, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be able to go, oh, that thing was so silly. I'm so sorry. Can you forgive me for that? Like, I just want a second chance. I don't want to be remembered for that dumb thing that I did, because that's not who I am anymore. That was maybe something I thought at the time, but I don't think that anymore. And so even with this lens of slut shaming or, you know, putting people down for their pasts in whatever capacity it is, it's like, hey, man, if you were on the other side of that, we all know that you would want that grace. You would want someone to go, you know what, it's okay, I get it. You made a dumb decision, and we all do that. Let's just move forward.
What I've said to a few boy mums online, your son may not respect those women, you may not respect those women, but if your son harms that woman, he goes to jail like everyone else. The judge won't say, well, she's got loose morals. It's okay. The judge will put you in jail. It's a crime. You rape a prostitute, you go to jail.
Yeah.
You hurt a sex worker, you go to jail.
Yeah.
It's the same rules for everyone else. Just because your morals don't align with that doesn't exclude you.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true, hey? And it just comes back to, I think a really huge lens that I had when I was working at the OnlyFans agency, and what was a moment of clarity for me, was when that deception came off me to be like, wait a minute, we're commodifying people. I didn't even know what that word meant. You know, I had to learn a new word. But I realized that, oh my goodness me, we're literally treating human beings as an object. And the way that we would talk about these girls and the lens that we had and the money that they would make and the thing. And I remember feeling so yuck on the inside, just disgusted in myself. And it was one day that I realized, I was like, wait a minute, I've never been exposed to pornography before, right? So I've never seen it. And then now I'm seeing porn for the first time, and it's these girls that I know. And I'm going, but you have amazing family values. You're so generous. You're so kind. And this is what you're doing. No, like you, and it's again, it's this culture that sexualizes people, that commodifies people, that turns them into a product and an object to just be taken and used, that we get totally desensitized to the value of another human being, right? But like, it just, it really, I think that was a huge part of why I guess I came out of the industry. It was Jesus, honestly, radical encounter with Jesus. But that curiosity that led me to there was being like, these people, we are living in a society that tells young women that their greatest dreams that they should dream and the biggest things that they should achieve and value in life is to get naked on camera and make money. And that's the pinnacle of your worth. And it just destroyed me, because I'm like, again, it's that human value. We're all worth so much more. It doesn't matter if you're a sex worker, if you're a sex buyer, if you were neither of those things, if you've had a bunch of sex, if you've never had sex, if whatever. We're all so incomprehensibly valuable that no one deserves this type of like just harshness.
It's true, especially now with our OnlyFans culture. Everyone thinks it's their ticket to money, to fame, to stardom, to seeing the world, to just living the life of their dreams.
Yeah.
And I can say, as a seasoned sex worker who was on top of their game, it's hard to stay on top. It is really hard. It is possible to make a lot of money. As you know, girls can make a lot of money on OnlyFans if they had the right marketing, which you guys were doing. But a lot were not making that money.
Yeah, and I think that it's an illusion that needs to be shattered because, again, I think I said it before, but it's like, I don't know if you felt this way, but I definitely felt like the sex industry poses like it's a solution to a problem.
Yes.
You're in a hard situation.
It's a safety net.
Yeah, it's the bait. Like, because even growing up, we all would make stupid jokes of, oh, I'll just become a stripper.
Yes.
Now the joke is, oh, I'll just become an OnlyFans girl. But it's because we're indoctrinated in the back of our minds to think that this is always going to be a solution if I'm ever in a really bad situation. And I don't know about you, but a lot of the rebuttal I get from people is that, well, if they're in a bad situation, what can they do? Anything. You can literally do anything. You can go make coffees, work at a cafe, push trolleys, work in a factory. There is so many other options for you besides sex work. It's so many other options for you. Western world, obviously, if we want to talk about like sex trafficking in like third world countries, different story, right? But there's so many options. It's just this deception piece of, well, I can just go do sex work. I'll make a bunch of money. It can stay hush-hush.
I'll only stay in there for a while.
A couple
biggest lie we tell ourselves.
Exactly. And it's such a deception piece. And it just, it's interesting. It's interesting how much, I don't know what the, like, I don't know if the whole thing of it is like totally that it's, well, it has to be. It's all demonic. I was like, but it shows this system and this structure that's in place, right? To be able to just deceive people on such a mass level and softly influence and softly desensitize them to now the pendulum has swung so far that we've gone from probably being like, hey, nah, like we have different values we want to champion, to now in a culture where we're like the pinnacle of success is being an OnlyFans girl or even sex worker in any capacity. I don't know if you agree with that.
Every news article I see on Facebook is Bonnie Blue, or this girl's made 100,000 on OnlyFans, or Sophie Rain, or...
Yeah. What's your lens of Bonnie Blue?
I think she's a marketing genius.
Yeah.
But I think it's only she's going to come crashing down. Yes.
Oh, sorry. You poor thing.
I'm dying.
You okay?
I'm dying.
Oh, honey.
Huh? Yeah, thanks. I've got allergies.
I was going to say, are you sick at the moment or? Oh, you poor thing.
No, just allergy season.
Really? In winter?
Yeah.
Oh, how interesting. Oh, that sucks.
Thank you. Please cut this part out of the video.
Oh, no, keep it in the podcast, guys. Oh, you poor thing.
Okay, from the beginning. Yes, I think Bonnie Blue is good at marketing.
Yep.
I think she's full of crap. I don't believe half the stuff that she says that she actually does. I've met a lot of Bonnie Blues when I've been working. I would love to interview the real woman behind Bonnie Blue, not the character, not the facade. I would like to know what happened in her life to make her just feel that she needs to prove that. I would love to actually see why her parents, her husband, everyone is so supportive. How can you sit there, watch your daughter getting gangbanged and go, oh, okay, money, yay. I would also like to know what's going to happen once she crashes and she hits that wall, and we all hit that wall.
It is. It's one of the most devastating things to see, but to see the sensationalism around it, I think, because it's rage bait. But then,
of course.
What it does is it piques people's curiosity, right? And I think that's what the sex industry does that's what we did as well. In marketing, we had actually hired experts who would study algorithms. And so we would then send the girls every single day these very intentional, curated, provocative videos to pique people's curiosity. And so that's how you hook someone, right? You have a video, like an example that I use as one of the videos that we would get girls to do is imagine you had like a big mirror and you've got all your little compact makeup things. Yeah. And all the mirrors are facing you though, right? And it looks like you're getting ready and you're scanning it across and there's a sexualized song that's playing behind it and the caption is, did you see it? And so, did you see it? And the music makes you feel something, right? She's got all these mirrors and you go, did you see it? Did I see what? And so you keep watching it because your curiosity's peaked. And then before you know it, you realize that in one of those mirrors, there's a reflection of a girl in lingerie. So then it does something within you, right? And so then before you know it, you're now looking through all her TikToks. Then you're on her Instagram. Then you're on her link. And then you're on her OnlyFans. And I think that the danger in Bonnie Blue is it piques people's curiosity because they go, that's crazy.
Of course, she thrives off saying good or bad. She thrives off it. I didn't believe the petting zoo was going to happen. As soon as I heard it, I thought, yeah, that's going to happen. And I was right, it didn't.
Yeah.
She suddenly turned around and said, no, it's not happening. It got marketing, it got people interested, it got people subscribing to her account.
Yeah, I wonder if she'll be like, I don't mean this in a mean way because I think it's quite sad. I was on a pod in the States and I got shown a video of Denise Richards, and her daughter started doing OnlyFans. So then Denise Richards started doing OnlyFans. And her justification of it was, well, people were saying that it was really bad that my daughter was fresh 18 and doing OnlyFans. So I wanted to do it to prove that it's not bad and protect her. And I'm such a good mother.
That makes sense, yeah.
And I'm like, that is so twisted that we live in a world where a mother believes that she is being a good protective mother of her daughter's essence by being like, yeah, let's do sex work together. And I think it's really sad because generationally, we're now seeing the impact of this, right? And so I just really hope that that's not what Bonnie turns into. I pray that that's not what Bonnie turns into. And she's 50, 60 years old, still trying so desperately to just prove that she matters in some capacity. What a horrific, I can't imagine when she lies down what must be in her spirit.
I can only imagine from being someone who was that extreme into the industry.
Yeah.
I was on a lot of meds. And sometimes
you'd have to numb it. You have to disassociate, right?
I look at her face. I look at the way she talks. I believe she's numbed herself.
Yeah.
She's numbed herself mentally. She's numbed herself and disassociated. And it's only going to get to that point where people are going to get sick of it. People are going to be like, okay, Bonnie Blue, you're the girl that cried wolf. You're trying to become more and more extreme. It's getting boring. We're going to go to the next girl.
Well,
that's going to do even worse.
Yeah, no, sorry, continue. But
she's not going to be all, she's going to lose the plot.
Yeah.
And I do pray that God speaks to her, speaks to her entire family. And when I was in the industry, all I wanted was one person to say, can I help you? How can I help you out of this? Everyone was kind of supportive. You're doing great things. And it took my mum, who I hadn't spoken to for years, to say, how can I get you out of this?
Yeah, wow. It is. It really is. You think about even just the woman at the well. And it's you just need that one encounter. You just need one touch from someone who cares so much about you. And it changes. That's what happened with me. I know that for me, and not in an extreme, not in a comparison way, just in an empathizing and can understand way. Even at working at the agency, it got to a point where the lens was, I was like, the drugs aren't working anymore. The drinking's not working. I was staying up for days on cocaine. Yeah, as I was saying, you just need one touch, from, I shouldn't use that word. You just need one, encounter, right?
Yes.
With someone who just cares so deeply about you. And yeah, as I was saying, for me, it got to that point where I was numbing myself and I'm staying awake for 3 days in a row on coke because I can't deal with what I'm doing anymore, right? But it got to a point where that wasn't working anymore. And thank God that he intervened when he did, because I have no idea. He intervened before it could get any more extreme, but who knows what path that would have taken. Because if you're staying awake for days and multiple times, within the month, you're drinking all the time, everything, and it's not working, unless you have those crazy radical encounters with God, you're going to keep going down that path, right? And so I just, it's so sad though to see what the phenomenon of Bonnie has done though, because now you have Lily Phillips, you have Annie McKnight or whatever her name is, you got Blue Eye Kayla Jade, but more are popping up now, because now the level of extremeness that is the baseline standard on OnlyFans is massive gangbangs and all these crazy things, right?
It's stuff that back in my days in BDSM, we would never do. We would never do stuff like that. And now the average girl is trying to be like a BDSM worker, doing the most extreme stuff on OnlyFans. And where's going to be the limit?
Even, oh my gosh, I mean, are you in Melbourne Gal Pals, the Facebook group?
No.
Oh my gosh, Melbourne Gal Pals breaks my heart. It's about 50,000 women. And you can post anonymously. And the stuff that women ask in there, hey, I'm fresh 18, I've got it, or even like 16 or whatever. My boyfriend really wants me to do this and I don't know where he got it from, or my boyfriend watches porn and he's asked me to do this and I don't feel comfortable, but he really wants me to do this. And it's like women are now believing that they have to be this wild sex fiend craziness to even be liked by their boyfriend. And that they have to perform, like, even if you're not going to the extremes of, like, the bunnies and stuff like that, the everyday woman, I literally went on a walk yesterday with a friend and she was like, babe, like, how do you do this Jesus thing with, like, the no sex? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, I'm never going to find a guy that's going to like me and take me serious unless I probably sleep with him by the second date. And I'm like, what?
He's going to leave you anyway.
Like, where did that? But doesn't it break your heart that there's so many women just in an everyday micro level, not even these extremes that we're talking about, generations that are inundated with believing, well, I have to sleep with him because of the lens of what he views in porn and how he views women. Otherwise, they're not going to be interested in me. And it's like, oh, when you're around, I hope that this is encouraging for someone. I said this to my friend yesterday, and I don't know if you've experienced this as well, like being in faith, but when you're around good, safe, healthy Christian men that respect you and see you as a sister in Christ and value you for you and no agenda, oh my gosh, you just want every woman to know that, hey, like, that's a big fat lie. And there is a man out there that his highest honor is to protect your innocence and your virtue. His highest honor is to lay his life down for you and love you the way that Jesus loves us. And his biggest lens of what he believes in his life matters is his relationship with God, and the next to that is his relationship with you. And I just hope that, like, women can be encouraged by that. I've met these men. You know, I've met couples that now, I literally spent the past day with a couple in their 80s, and they are like the epitome of that healthy, beautiful dream ending that everyone wants. And he loves his wife and he protects her and he cherishes her. And it's so real, you know, but it's so sad that we devalue ourselves so much as women into believing this disgusting lie that because of this pornified culture, a man's not going to like me unless I sleep with him, you know.
And it's the same way they're shaming girls as well for not being virgins. That's why I love to challenge these trad wives online. I've been blocked by most of them. And I've said, what if a girl was raped and you're saying your value lies in your purity and your virtue? What happens then? And then someone chimed in and said she becomes a sex worker. It happens. I said, no, it doesn't. Not all the time.
Oh, that's so awful.
Yeah, and then I said directly to one of them, what do you have to say to those girls who have been sexually assaulted? A young girl is watching this content and you're talking about, because I was a virgin, men respected me and I was married and I was this. I'm like, shut up. I was a virgin till late in life, very, very late in life. And yeah, look where I ended up.
Man, okay, yeah, as well. For people, I have had women weeping to me over this toxic purity culture. And it is such a fat lie as well that our value is not our virginity. Our value is not our sexuality. Like, we just need, like, again, hopefully for anyone listening to this, your value is not placed in your sexuality. It is not. And purity isn't just have I had sex or have I not had sex. Purity is a heart posture. It's actually a framework for how you operate. What's your thought life? Is your thought life a thought life of one that edifies people? Is it one that when you think of people, you only think the good things? Is it a thought life of how can I be of service? How can I love well today? How can I receive love? And from the overflow of the revelation of how loved I am, how can I love others? That's what a purity of heart is. It's not, I'm pure because I'm not having sex or I haven't had sex. It's just stupid, right? But it's our identity is not placed in our sexuality. And if you are a believer in Jesus, your identity is placed in the fact that you are a child of God. That is your identity. That's it. Everything else doesn't matter. And so it's so upsetting and disgusting that even there's a toxic purity culture. I've even had little girls that, oh my gosh, Tessa, like bawling their eyes out, crying to me. I'll get emotional about it. Oh my gosh. I was in Georgia and I just finished speaking with a bunch of youth. And as I'm getting ready to leave, I'd been there for a couple hours now, just like, I guess, ministering after I spoke with these precious kids. And this girl, maybe she was 14 or 15, I don't really know, came running up to me as literally I'm walking out the door and she goes, excuse me, I just really want to ask you a question. She goes, how do you deal with the shame? And I was like, all right, let's sit down, let's talk, what's happened? And she goes, well, I did something with a boy last summer. I didn't have sex though, because that would have, been too far gone. But she's like, I did something that I didn't want to do. And even that in itself was so tragic, isn't it? It's like, okay, she did something she didn't want to do, but, oh, thank goodness I didn't have sex because then clearly I would have been too far gone. And it's like, and we had to sit there and kind of dissect with her this shame that she was in about what she had done and all of that. And it was just the saddest thing that, again, yes, if you understand covenant theology and you understand the significance of sex and sex in covenant, you understand why it's so attacked. But we also have to understand that it's even more dangerous, isn't it? Well, just not more, but I would perhaps say just as dangerous to do the shame of the purity culture stuff, because that's just as damaging to your essence,
Yeah, my purity didn't protect me. But like I was taught, that's why I hated the church, because I thought my purity was going to protect me. It didn't protect me from harm. That's what kind of turned me against the church, the kind of the beginning of the end for me when I walked away. It was kind of a string of events that happened, but that was the first thing. My purity did not protect me. I was told that if I remained a virgin, nothing bad would happen, and I felt like that was what attracted a lot of toxic men, because I looked like something for them to conquer. Wow. And when they couldn't get what they wanted from me, it was abuse, it was everything, and then it was discard and made me feel worse than ever.
Wow.
It's almost like something to conquer. I wasn't a human being to them. So to me, yes, purity culture is extremely toxic.
And you have people, I guess, as you were talking, I think of like Sophie Rain and how warped of a mentality it is. And again, I hope people, we're not mentioning people to bag people because it's playing whack-a-mole, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because another person's going to pop up. But we're using these as cultural examples to be able to get people to understand what is being influenced, right? So then we can look at these things from a lens of, oh, I see that now. And so I just hope that people, again, don't go and we can't attack the person. We have to attack the problem.
Yes.
Just to like really emphasize that to people, because it doesn't do anything. Hate doesn't do anything.
I know.
But she's a good case study to look at the warpedness of it. If she's true in what she's saying, she's true. Like, that's not the point. But oh, I'm a Christian, I'm a virgin, and I'm and so that's your value. It's even more twisted because it's like I sexualize myself, but I'm a virgin, so it's okay. So then,
and God loves what she's doing because she's making so much money. I've seen that interview.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
Like, it just, how are young girls supposed to navigate this thing called faith and sexuality?
Because you're being told that if you behave a certain way, God will come for you. But then you're seeing Sophie Rain, the number one OnlyFans creator in the world, 18-year-old pure virgin Christian girl making the most money. That kind of would be like, hang on, God's not attacking her. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's a catch-22.
Maybe there's a loophole.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's so, I don't even know what the word is, hey. It's just, for me, it's just a burden. I don't know how it makes you feel, but for me, it makes me, like, as Christians, we're called to hate sin. And people don't, I guess, really like to talk about that. I'm learning, but I'm like, why? Because the less sin you have in your life, the literally more free you are. But we have to hate these things. It's not hate
I hate the
people,
behaviour.
but hate these things, right? Because we've both been in this industry, I guess you could say, from different perspectives, and we just see how destructive it is, right?
Oh, yeah. And I want to talk about the reality of going on OnlyFans because you do outreach, don't you?
Yeah.
Yes, same with me. We go to different brothels and we speak to the girls.
Yeah.
And I've noticed the girls have been getting younger and younger as I'm going to brothels. And we don't go to the expensive high-class ones. We go to some of the lowest brothels in Sydney. And a lot of these girls have the same story. I went on OnlyFans and I wasn't making a lot of money. And a friend suggested I go to a strip club, but of course I got there, I can't dance, it's hard to make money. And some of those girls are kind of like, yeah, the special kind of girl can dance on stage. Then they went to a brothel. They went to the number one. They went to Stilettos, and they have a criteria for what the girl looks like. And then getting rejected by a lot of the top brothels till she goes to the lowest one, or one of the lowest. And they're like, okay, we'll take you on. Not making a lot of money and thinking that maybe one day she'll make a lot, maybe someday from there. And it's like the same old story. OnlyFans is like the gateway drug.
Yep.
And they end up in the lowest brothel trying to make that money, thinking that $300 a week is a lot of money that they're making in these brothels. Some of them, it's like $100 for an hour, plus the place takes a commission.
It's so true, and people don't understand that. I had a friend who was at the agency that I was at, and I'd actually trained her to be an account manager, but she also had an OnlyFans, and I ran into her maybe like a year after I left the agency. And she said this line to me, and it really stuck with me of, I'm so glad that I had a way out, because not many people do. And it's so true. She's like, I'm so glad I had a hobby, because now her hobby, she actually made her business. That's what empowered her to leave the sex industry. And even in that, though, she went into an entirely new industry, right? I'm talking so far left field. She became really successful in this industry. A year after it, one of her old subscribers sent all of her porn to her brand new clients in a totally different industry. And that's a consequence that we don't even talk about. But to go back to your point, it's so sad because these girls literally, exactly, well, my only value or my only worth is how hot I am. How much money can I make from getting naked? So OnlyFans didn't work for me. So I probably have to go do something else because I can't do anything else because I'm told that the only thing that I should do in this life is make money off how I look. And I can't imagine how degrading and demoralizing and destructive that series of events is. And I feel that a lot of people do think that OnlyFans is here, the sex industry is here. But even so many of the girls at the agency when I was there, they do all those things. They do OnlyFans, topless waitressing, they're escorts, they're strippers. It's all the same.
Yeah.
And then exactly when OnlyFans doesn't work out, because realistically it's not going to work out for a lot of women, well, what do I do now? Oh, I'll go escort. I'll go work in the brothels. Like, you're 1,000% correct. And it's just something that people don't understand. Like, I don't know if you felt this way, but even like just in like reckless vulnerability, I even got influenced by this. There's like a marker, I feel. So like, how do I explain this? It's like, well, I already did that. So who cares if I go do this? And like, I even got influenced by that of like, well, I see the craziness that these girls do. So what I'm doing, it's not that bad, but it's still pretty bad. You know what I mean? And I think that that's what happens when you're in these environments is you go, well, I already did OnlyFans, so I might as well just go do this. And then you put these weird parameters of, well, I'm not doing that. But then before you know it, you're doing that anyways, you know? And I just don't think that people understand. Like, I think you just put it excellently. Like, it's just a gateway drug, you know? Yeah,
and that's how a lot of people don't know. That's how I became very well known in the BDSM scene, and that's how I got to the top of my game. I dropped my boundaries, which affected me later on. I became the girl that did everything that none of the other dominatrixes want to do. I got good reviews from the most perverted clients saying she's a nice lady, she's a lot of fun. Because I dropped those boundaries, those morals. I put myself out there to make myself the top, and I went crashing. I spiraled out of control from there. It looked like I was on top of the world, but inside I was on so much medications. And it wasn't because I was the best looking. I was far from the best looking. It wasn't because I was different. It was because I dropped my walls, I dropped my boundaries, and I just said yes to all the jobs that girls didn't want to do. They didn't want to do it. I stood up and I said, I'll be the monster he wants me to be. And from there, that's how I became well known. And a lot of girls are going to find that you're going to have to drop a lot of your boundaries.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do stuff that makes you very, very uncomfortable. And at the end of the day, you're going to be sitting there in that locker room or in your bedroom going, what have I done? I need to numb myself right now.
Yeah, exactly. And what would be your answer? Because a lot of people do ask me now of, okay, well, what would you want to say to that girl who's thinking of starting an OnlyFans? And like, what do you say to that? I can give you my answer if you're interested in it. But like, I'd be really curious as like, what is your advice then? Just say if someone is listening to this.
If they are listening, I will say your videos are out there forever. And I speak as someone who's going to be turning 50 in a few years' time, who's now a Sunday school teacher but has porn videos all out there. And nothing I can do can get rid of those videos. I can complain to the website, they just get put up under a different name. Or they get taken down temporarily and put up, or he takes my profile down and puts another contested adult profile up. Those videos are there forever. I'll always be known as that girl who worked in BDSM, that girl that worked in porn. It's going to follow you for the rest of your life. And like, you can say that you want to be in the industry forever. Do you really want to be there?
Yeah.
Like one day, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah. How do you like reconcile that though? Because I feel that that's something, just say to like I had two 15-year-olds who were obsessed with Anna Paul, like before all the stuff blew up. And they were like, well, I look at Anna Paul and she's happy and she travels. So therefore, I have to do OnlyFans so I can be happy and travel. How do you reconcile with such a inability to have hindsight, to be able to say to these girls, like, because I'm sitting there and I'm trying to have this conversation with them and understand their lens and all of that. But to say, babe, do you understand it's going to be there forever? Like, how do you get people until you've been through it? Or do you think that it's just a thing that we're, as much as we want to be able to say that to people, unless you go through it, you're never going to, like, does that make sense what I'm asking?
I tell them it's like winning with the lottery. How many people have put in their lottery tickets?
Yeah.
How many get pulled out? How many millions of lottery tickets are out there? Hundreds of millions, and only one lottery ticket gets pulled out, and it's the Anna Paul one. There's only one Anna Paul.
Yeah.
There's only one Sophia Rain. There's only one Bonnie Blue. And they don't have enough slots for everyone.
Yeah.
It's like auditioning in Hollywood and thinking you're going to become an actress overnight.
It's just, the realisticness of it. It's so true. It's just, it's so hard because there's such, it's just the money. And like I have friends that have left the sex industry as well and who made like a lot of money. And they talk about the idolizing of money. But they talk about as well, which I think is not spoken about enough, is how quick it goes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you found that.
Oh, yeah.
But you're like, I'll get all this money come in, but then you spend it on the upkeep, on the bags, on the this, on the that, on the and it's all gone. And so you have to, and you idolize it. And I think that's a really hard.
Yeah. All of my friends who have retired, we have that conversation. Where did the money go? Because we were raking this money in like it was nothing. We were flushing customers' money down the toilet in front of them.
Yeah.
Just to torture them. Where did all this money go? Because we were pulling in envelopes and just putting them on the table as we were going home. Where did it go? As fast as it comes in, it goes out.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who's retired who's still living off that money.
I think that that's a really, I think that you're hitting something here. It's something that needs to be spoken about is, guys, even if you make money, it goes.
It does.
It's because there's such a spiritual element to finances, but it's that loop, it's that cycle that keeps you in there and it keeps you addicted. Because, well, I have this persona, I have this apartment, I have met people that have left the sex industry, and again, it's been a process, right, and that's okay, but that is so attached to their cars or their bags and like, but I need to make money so I can keep my car, and it's like, what? Like, what is happened for you to feel that this is it's all of this is about money. Let's be real. I tell people when people are like, I don't know, were you like bad guys in the shadows that wanted to exploit people and I'm like, no. And majority of people that are in human trafficking, that are in this type of work from like my lens, we don't care about the people, we care about money.
Yeah.
And it's all about money at the end of the day. And so no matter how much you destroy your life or other people's lives, if you can make money out of it, you don't really care. And I think that that's a huge element of the allure, but even the consequences of the sex industry that people just don't, I don't know if they don't register it. I don't know how you feel about it, but like it's this idolizing of money and how toxic that is.
Oh, yeah. I, as you said, exploited people's fantasies. I did that. I exploited their sex addictions. I exploited their porn addictions. I exploited their sick fantasies and made them feel like I was the only one they could come to. Made them feel like everyone else was. Even though I thought their fantasy was disgusting, I would tell them it was normal.
Yeah.
I made them feel like like guys would leave saying, I feel so normal when I talk to you. But in my head, I was like, you are sick and you need help.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I did exploit a lot of people for money. And I admit that to this day.
Yeah. And I think that that's just like a key. Same. just for anyone that like, same, that's what I did. But I think that that's a really big element. Again, I just love that line of like shattering the illusion, because there is no amount of money. But oh my gosh, I don't know. I just think about this as well so much. I'm like, how many more people have to do the stupid things for people to understand? Because we were both on paper at the pinnacle. I remember we were going to Queensland and we were in these multi-million-dollar mansions and, you know, the cars and we were going out to dinners and hiring out these Airbnbs and doing all these things. And it is the most hollow and shallow existence of your life. I remember being at a launch party that we had in Queensland. And again, we're in this multi-million-dollar mansion. It's on the bay. It's beautiful. I'm surrounded by rich people and famous people and, luxury cars, and there's a yacht in the back. And I remember it was about midnight. And the reason why I remember that is because I remember I left early and I was like, whoa, like I'm the one who's usually partying for days, right? But I remember looking around this house and seeing all of this. And I have this distinct memory of going, this is really sad. And so I left. And that's what people don't understand is like you think that the pinnacle of success is the drinking, the drugs, the cars, the outfits, the bags, the whatever. And it's literally the most hollow and shallow and numbing existence of your life. But I just think it's so sad that if you look back over how many people go through this and how many people talk about it, that we still just don't understand. It's so sad, isn't it?
It is very, very sad. It was very, very empty. So what was the end game for you? When was I'm out of this?
Yeah. So what happened for me? Working at the agency, I was doing all the marketing. So I was doing all the front-facing stuff. But what we had realized over time is that if we're impersonating a person, and just say you've got the OnlyFans account manager doing all the OnlyFans account managing, and you've got me doing all the marketing, and we're not communicating as management, right? And you've got a subscriber that's talking to a girl on OnlyFans and talking to a girl on social media. Well, he's starting to see the holes in the story, right? And so what we had realized is, oh, okay, well, what we're going to do is split the girls in half. So you would do less girls, but you're going to do the full life cycle. So that's when I actually jumped onto the back end of OnlyFans and started doing account management. So that's when I'm exposed to porn for the first time. And it's people that I know and I've started to build relationships with. And so the only way I can explain it is like my brain was literally just malfunctioning. Like I was just like, oh, something just in me was like so uncomfortable with this. I'm crying every day. I can't open up my laptop. I can't do this work. But I asked people at the agency who work there, like, what do you think about what we're doing? And people are like, it's like a safe injecting heroin room. People need a safe place to do drugs. We give people a safe place to do porn. And just the answers that people were giving me, I just wasn't satisfied with. And so as I had said before, I was like, well, the drinking's not working anymore. The drugs aren't working anymore. Cigarettes aren't helping. Vapes aren't helping. Like nothing's helping. Nothing's working. And so I'm like, okay, I have a genius idea. Maybe if I go and do a big enough act of good, it's going to offset all the bad. It's going to make me feel better about myself. And we were building the OnlyFans agency, but then I was also building a medicinal cannabis company. So I was like, okay, and that was my dream business. My educational background's actually in psychoactive psychotherapy and like alt med. So I was like, okay, sick. I'll go overseas. I'll help a bunch of refugees. That's like a big enough act of good, right? And by the time I come back, the cannabis company will be up and running, and then I don't have to work at the OnlyFans agency anymore. genius. And so I just turned 27. I just turned 25 when this happened. And I was like, oh, I went to like a church as a kid. And I think we stopped going when I was like 8 or 9, right? But I just had this memory. I was like, oh, that church I went to as a kid had like a refugee program. I was like, cool. So I Googled the church and now I know the word. There was like an outreach program. It wasn't a refugee program. But I Googled the church and I signed up for this application to like go help refugees. And this is where it gets so cool. So that application never went to the outreach department, but instead the young adults pastor, oh, I almost cry. Like, I'm like, Jesus is so freaking cool, hey? But the young adults pastor got an email, and the email said, Victoria wants to reach out to the church. Here's her number, call her. So I get a call one day from this lady, and she's like, hey, I heard you want to come down to church. And I just thought maybe that's like what Christians did, like as their vetting. I had no idea, but I'm like, sure, I'll come down to church on a Thursday. So I rock up to this church, and I remember sitting in my car at the front of this church, and this voice was just screaming in my head, you can't go in there. You're such a bad person. You're literally going to burst into flames. And I was just like wrestling with myself. And I'm like, Vic, you're here now. There's someone waiting for you. Just go in. And so I walk into this church and I literally, for hours, just like word vomit to this beautiful woman. I sell porn and I feel like it's bad, but everyone tells me that it's good. And like, I don't know, like help. Like, and I just tell her my whole, like everything that's happening. And she was so beautiful. She was so sweet. She just goes, I really think you should come to church this Sunday. I think you'll really resonate with our guest speaker. So I rock up to church on a Sunday and the guest speaker in church is talking about porn and she's talking about OnlyFans and she's talking about this over-sexualized culture. And her name's Melinda Tankard-Reist and she goes all around Australia and she goes into schools and she talks about all these things. And she's been an activist for like 40 years now. So she's seen firsthand how destructive this is, right? And she just said this line and she goes, Christians are supposed to be the salt and the light of the earth and they have failed and we are destroying the next generation. And it just clicked something within my heart and I just went, I knew it. What we're doing is wrong. This is bad. And so I'm like in the balcony, like at the back. But when she finished speaking, I literally ran down to her and I went up to her and I just said, hi, my name is Victoria. I work for an OnlyFans agency and I hate myself. And she didn't do what I thought Christians would do. Like, you're going to burn in hell. Like, I don't know. She just goes, let's have lunch. And this beautiful woman sat with me for hours and she answered my questions. Isn't this positive? Ethical porn, liberating, girl power, like all the things that you think, right? And she just spoke the truth to me. And people have even asked me, well, did people mention Jesus? Did they do a salvation prayer? And I was like, no. I was in a pet project to convert. I was just a human. And God is so big that day, like Jesus was never proclaimed. It was never like, well, do you know that Jesus died for your sins and he rose again 3 days later and that's why no, there was none of that, right? But God was so powerful in that conversation that I left that day going, I don't know what this Jesus thing is, but I think I have to follow it with all my heart. That's literally what I thought. So that was on a Sunday. By the Friday, I quit the agency. I walked away from every single thing in my life. 8 weeks later, I'm sober, I'm baptized. That's been almost 2 years ago. And literally every single day since that day, I've been talking about this story and I've been talking about OnlyFans and Jesus. Yeah.
Lovely. And do you believe that money makes you happy?
No, for anyone listening, it's a big fat lie. Money does not make you happy. Jesus does.
I can back you up on that one. I'm not even making a quarter of what I used to make and I'm so happy.
Oh, man. Okay. I think that we're almost out of time, hey, but just for people listening, one last thing. I was so for me, my manifestation of insecurity was never to sexualize myself. It was business. And I always thought that, well, when I have the business and when I have the money, then I'm there and then I matter and then my life means something. So I was very obsessed with money, right? And God, and this isn't going to make sense to people, and guess what? It doesn't have to make sense. But throughout this journey, God's literally asked me to empty my bank account, like to zero. Like, yeah. And guys, I cannot tell you the sense of safety and security that I feel because I go, I don't rely on money. The financial miracles that I have seen in my life make no sense at all. The provision that I have had, the way that money goes further with less, and it's this upside down, right side up kingdom that we live in. But for anyone listening, one of the first things that I had to lay down was money. And I got rid of it all. And I will do it 100 times over, because there is no security in money. There is no safety in money. But you will watch that if that's something that is on your heart, that you feel maybe God's asking you to lay down, or even if you just don't tithe and you think that you can do more with your 100% than God can do with your 90%. Like, it is incomprehensible when you just lay down that idol of money and trust God with it, what he will do with that. And it's not prosperity, because it's not like I'm sitting here and I have a lot of money in my bank account. But the way that God works miracles in ways that don't correlate with money to provide for you is insane. And I'm sure that you can probably attest to that too.
Yes, and a lot of people, they believe that we left because we made a lot of money and decided to say, yeah, retirement. Now, I'm not living off any of my money.
Yeah.
I had to build myself up from ground zero.
Yeah.
From less than what I've ever had. Even before I went into the industry, I had to build myself up from there. No, I just had to blind faith rely that God was going to get me out of places. And he did. I managed to finish college. I managed to get my cat's surgery last year, which cost me a lot of money.
Yeah.
All while still being at college and only working like very casual.
Yeah. He does. He just provides. He provides. So I don't know. Maybe that's the theme of this for anyone listening. I pray that we can just encourage, people with that if that's something you struggle with.
Yes, and you don't need to rely on your body to get you places. Look at me. I'm covered up now and I'm doing better than ever.
Yeah. Being
completely modest. And I was told for years you only rely on your body to get you places.
Yeah.
Mine's completely covered up now.
Yeah. Like, being called sexy is the lowest form of validation.
Oh, yeah.
It's the lowest form of validation.
I hate it now.
Yeah. It is like it's just value. It's just when you understand how precious you are, when you understand how, I know I keep saying it, but how deeply loved you are in a way that we can't even fathom. But when you understand how loved you are, and how much you matter in this world and how seen you are. You look at all these things that we're talking about, if it's sexualizing yourself, if it's the finances, if it's the business stuff, if it's insert whatever, you realize it's all just trash. And the only thing that matters is the fact that we are so loved and we get to receive love, and then we get to go be love in this world. And the only way that you can understand true love is understanding what Jesus did on the cross for you. And it's actually that simple.
It is. Amen to that. Thank you, Victoria, for coming all this way and coming to see us at Life the Battlefield.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.